Good morning, everybody. Former Assembly Representative and current candidate for Wisconsin's 25th State Senate seat, Romaine Quinn is my very special guest today, Thursday, April 21st, 2022.
It is.
For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden. Welcome, everyone, to today's show. I want to say a quick special thank you to some of our recent guests, including Forward Analytics Director Dale Knapp, Congressman Tom Tiffany, CEO of Ignite Dispensary Timothy Fry, and earlier this week, Adam Jarkow, Sheriff Knutson, and Sheriff Walk joined Fitzy and I on it was our last Tuesday show. They were coming to us live from the southern border to give us an update down there. You can find a recording of all of our live shows on our website, DrydenWire.com, our Facebook page, or just go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/DrydenWire. But today, please help me welcome back to the show, friend of the show, Romaine Quinn. Romaine, good morning.
Morning. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
It's been a while since you've been on.
You look a little pink today. Are you
I
feeling
really
okay?
am. I'm not kidding. Like before the show started, I'm like, you make me nervous. Like I'm a little shaky and I feel heart's. I don't know what it is. I'm just so excited to have you on. That's why. There you go.
Hey, that's a good reason. That's a good reason.
Whatever. So it's been a while since you've been on. I'm sure we're going to have a lot to get to and talk about today and the campaign stuff and whatever. But first, how is Raquel?
Good.
Yeah.
Family's good. Little Romaine just turned 1 last month.
Aw.
So things are good. He's growing like a weed. So things are good.
Aw. Last time I saw him, it was just shortly after he was born. So I haven't actually seen you with COVID and everything else. I haven't seen you in a while.
Right. I know it's fun to be able to actually get out and live life again a little bit. I know some don't, but I definitely am. Spring's here and summer's coming and we're going to be outside. And how are things for you? Is Darusha getting her tomato plants ready yet?
She's always doing some of that stuff. I just leave it alone and whatever you need, honey. But
Sure.
No, I got her some grow lights for her birthday, and it's not what
Just
you
for
think.
tomato plants, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So now she can do gardening all year round because she just brings all the
She should be
stuff in
happy
here and
all the time. Then she should always be happy.
yeah, she is. If she's gardening, she's happy. Or anything with plants
Right.
or flowers, anything that grows, she loves that stuff. So, no, she's doing great. Kids are doing great. I had a video chat with my grandkids. It's still weird to think, I'm a grandpa, but had a chat with them, via
You're the
Zoom or
coolest
whatever.
grandpa.
What?
I said you got to be the coolest grandpa I know.
I still don't feel like I'm like mature enough to be a dad, much less a grandpa.
I hear you. I feel you.
Hey, so you see my background today?
I do.
Well,
You are in the 74th Assembly District right now.
I am.
Your head is.
And actually, I wrote that down. I want to get to that, and I have some maps because I love maps. I'm the map. 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 Do you know that jingle?
Yes.
Because as soon as you hear it, you never
Isn't that
unhear
off
it.
of Dora the Explorer?
Dora the Explorer. Oh, every time I hear maps, I always think that. I'm the map. I'm the map. So there's some things that changed. I went snooping on your page this morning, your Facebook page this morning, and I saw, because I didn't even know about it, that the maps are finished, right?
They are set in stone, unless there's some other last-minute litigation, which we don't predict. Now, going forward over the next 10 years, people could still sue, but I think both sides are like, gosh, we got to get this set in stone because candidates have to pull papers and get nomination signatures to be able to be on the ballot. And it's kind of hard to do that if you don't know what your district is. So luckily, Hagedorn decided to at least make a decision, and we actually know what maps we're running under. So that's good. And that's the picture that you've got behind you.
Yeah, and I jacked that one from your page. But I
You
do
can
have
have
some
it.
other maps. So you had said just a minute ago that my head is in the 74th. But I
Yep.
saw Mike Schaefer's.
Your right shoulder is in the 73rd.
Oh, well, I just found out
You're
looking at your thing. I
lines
saw
right now.
Mike Schaefer had commented on your post on Facebook with this map and said it looks like all of Spooner. So I didn't know that. So before, I'm right here in Spooner, but on the north side or something. And it was always the 73rd. So that'd be Nick Milroy, our representative. And now, no, right? Now Spooner
Right.
is in the 74th. So
Fifth.
75th, excuse me. Yeah.
Yep.
Oopsie. Let me go back out. Well, there we go. I think that's a better one. So there's a 73rd. So that,
The
okay.
73rd. Yep. Off to the left, you can
Yep.
see kind of the purple lines on the right hand side that are that boundary.
Yeah.
And the 75th goes quite a bit more north. So it's kind of nice because it simplified the 75th. Because if you recall, or you probably wouldn't know this, but when I was in office, I had townships on the corner of Dunn, Polk, and St. Croix County. And I also had a township in the corner of Burnett County. So as a state representative, I had 6 counties. Now the 75th is very much squared off, and it just goes more north. And it picks up more Washburn County, which includes Spooner. So Spooner,
Sure.
the whole city.
Oh, hold on. I'm
used
hitting
to
all
be
the
in the
wrong buttons
73rd.
here. I want to find the one that gets closer where it shows Spooner. There it is. Yeah, so
Sure.
now Spooner is in the
The
75th.
entire
That's just weird.
city is in the 75th. Yep. So their representative is now Dave Armstrong.
So that's my new, and I like Dave. Dave's awesome.
Dave does a great job.
No kidding.
So
That dude's
he's,
legit.
he is, yeah, and he'll win again. And so I know he's going to spend a lot of time in Spooner to get to know the people because the city has never been in the 75th, and of course it's in the 25th. So I'll be spending quite a bit of time there too.
Yeah. So going back to this one, the 25th, that's the black line. So the 73rd, 74th, and 75th are all your 25th. So that's just a weird looking area. Like the 87th
So-
Assembly District really should be, well, never mind. I just like squares.
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, it would be nice, and a lot of people say that too. Why not just square it off? Like, if, for instance, you can see there's part of Sawyer County, the northern tip, is in the 25th. Well, why is that? Well, a lot of it is it's based on population. So it would be nice to just conveniently go by county lines, but the populations are so different. So Ashland County and Bayfield County don't have near the population Bayfield and Douglas. So you can't just draw straight lines because each state representative has to represent the exact same amount of people. And therefore that applies to the Senate because each Senate district is made up of 3 assemblies.
3. Yeah. So in your, maybe we can get to that later because I want to talk, well, let's bring it up right now.
Sure.
Nick Milroy
Yep.
has announced that he's not seeking re-election. In the 74th, Beth Myers announced that she wasn't seeking re-election. These are both Democrats. The 75th, of course, is Dave Armstrong. I haven't heard if anyone's running against him, Republican or Democrat yet. I'm assuming somebody will on the Democrat side. Usually don't want those
Right.
races to go unattested? No.
Uncontested.
Uncontested. And then, of course, Jana Bewley, that's you're running. And I think that was regardless. Yeah, I think you had announced before she had announced that she wasn't seeking re-election, so you were
Right.
just going to anyway. But that's a big shift there, or potentially a shift there, because
It is
I
big.
think I remember when 7th Congressional District voting, that was Tom Tiffany's, I looked at all of his counties. It was like 20 or 25, all or part of, for his counties. The only 3, I think there's only 2 counties that went red, or maybe it was 3, and it was a part of this, right? It was the Superior, like Ashland, Douglas.
Went blue.
Went blue,
blue.
right. They
Yep.
Exactly. So is this good for you? You are a Republican. You're running for the 25th Senate seat. You have an opponent now. But now we have the 73rd, 74th wide open. Is that better for you, or does that kind of hurt you?
I don't think it has a huge impact. I think it might help a little bit because there are going to be new faces, and incumbents aren't going to bring out their base maybe like they would have, right? Like if Nick Milroy has a solid following, or if Beth Myers had a solid following. But like you mentioned, the tables have really turned
Yeah.
on the Democrats in rural areas. So if you recall Beth Myers' last election, she hung on by 2 or 3 points.
Yep.
But they spent nearly $1 million.
$800,000.
That is
I thought it was a
sick
typo
money.
when I was
Sick
looking.
money. No.
Like, where did that come from? That was
Well,
great.
it came from the governor of Illinois. It's so funny because there's such this
Illinois.
stigma that Republicans are the party of the rich people and the billionaires. That has totally flipped. Democrats have way more billionaires now than we do that play in politics. One, just to our south, the governor of Illinois gave $10 million to the state Democratic Party in Wisconsin, who then flooded our legislative races. So it is unheard of to spend $800,000 on an assembly seat. So when I first ran, I was the third most expensive race in the state at $140,000. That was a big deal. And the RAC, the group that elects assembly Republicans, there's this 24-year-old punk kid, and they're not sure how he's going to do, so we got to spend money. And I was the third most expensive race. Now, fast forward as years go by, costs go up, but they're spending $300,000 to $500,000 on seats, really tough seats. So for them to spend $800,000 on a northern Wisconsin seat that has been a reliably Democrat for decades, I think has just shown how the population has just shifted.
And that was the interesting part. So it was on a weekend, and I went through all the elections over the last 2 and 4 years to see campaign. I mean, how much money they had received.
Yep.
Now with these, to spend that much, and that's fine, right? Yep. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't. Fine, spend $800,000. I don't care. But to then see, I think she only won. I think you were, a couple of points. That was points. Interesting.
Right.
So and now with these maps that are out, is that, I'm told by a lot of people that these are still all, and we don't need to get into this completely, but the gerrymandering part, that this is basically ensuring Republicans are going to be in power for the next decade. I'm sure you've heard the same things. Is this accurate? Is that an accurate assessment?
We heard this last time too. And frankly, that's why I announced before I even knew what the map was, because I didn't want them to be like, of course he's running again because they drew him a map so he could beat Senator Bewley. We're going to avoid all that garbage. So we're going to jump in before we even know what map, who drew it, who solidified it in court. I don't care. We're going to run as long as they don't draw me out, which the governor tried to do. He tried to break Barron County out of the Senate seat, which would preclude me from running. So fortunately, he didn't get the exact map he wanted. Otherwise, I would not be on your show today. But if you look at the last decade, and we hear this all the time, Republicans only have the legislature because of gerrymandering. But the point is, there's a number of factors. For whatever reason, many Democrats live in the same area. So big cities, for example. Well, just because Democrats are 48% of the state, if you all live in Green Bay, La Crosse, Milwaukee, and Madison packed together, that does not help you in a race in Northwest Wisconsin because you don't live in that district.
Right.
So they're losing ground in rural areas across the country, not just Wisconsin. And so inherently, legislatively, they have a disadvantage. I think they even admit by 7 or 8 seats right out of the gate, no matter who's running or what year it is. And then I think we just run better candidates and we run on better issues. Tammy Baldwin actually won 18 seats my colleagues won in the assembly. So how can a Democrat at the top of the ticket, I see your wheels turning.
Yeah, I'm like,
so think of this. So 18 Republicans in the assembly won their seat, but Tammy Baldwin also won that same seat on the top of the ticket. So if they were so gerrymandered, why did Tammy Baldwin win that seat? Well, she had a better message. She was better funded. She probably worked hard, and she won the seat. Well, so did the Republican counterpart in the assembly. So you can blame the maps, but I'm sorry, when your leadership is from Madison and you are getting cues from them on how to run when you run in Northwest Wisconsin, that does not work.
Sure.
So you can talk about what pronouns to use and all this woke ideology stuff. No one up here cares. And we don't want to hear about that. We want to know that Northern Wisconsin is going to be heard in Madison, that we're going to get the resources that we pay in every year. And we want our communities to be independent and thrive too. And it has nothing to do with a lot of the issues that those in Madison continue to push.
Before we move on here, because I wrote down broadband, bond, and bail, because I figured you were going to have terrible internet connection. So I even had a real nice segue into that. But your actual internet connection isn't too bad, because usually it's like Tom Tiffany, it just drops all the time. It's like, well, there you go.
Sure.
Enbridge pipeline, I wrote down, because I think it's going through your district. I just wanted your thoughts on that. But to wrap up the maps part, it's April 21st. Papers were taking out. You can start getting signatures on the 15th. This runs, I think, through, June 1st? Or you have to have them in by June 1st, something like that?
June 1st. Yep.
Well, with now Nick Milroy not doing, I'm still not hearing of other people that are announcing that they're running, whether for a Democrat or a Republican in the 73rd, in the 74th. Republican, one person announced,
Chance.
right?
Green.
Yep, Chance.
Yep.
I haven't heard of a Democrat yet, and maybe there is. I just haven't heard of one yet. And then
There's one filed. I don't know. I haven't seen an announcement.
Sure.
There's one filed.
It just
And I
seems like
heard
this
on
is
both-
really late in the game here. Like this stuff should already have been done. They were just waiting for the maps. And is that going to, because again, these 3 districts, and we're not including Dave Armstrong in the 75th here, but it's like everybody's kind of behind the 8 ball here.
I
right?
would say a little bit. I think for the most part, leaderships on both sides would like their candidate to have been out there sooner. Now, there may have been strategy. I don't know if Nick was waiting longer so they could find the right candidate to announce right after he decided not to. I mean, there's stuff that goes on behind the scenes too that we don't see. But I would say that, yes. I mean, it doesn't pay for people to wait anymore. If you're going to run, you need to register and get out there because you've got less than 2 months, a month and a half to get the signatures to run. So the assembly, you need 200. And in the Senate, you need 400. And our goal is to get 800. I always like to get twice the amount because they're going to go through and nitpick. Oh, someone didn't put town and they live in the city or whatever it is, and they'll throw those out. So if they can strike enough signatures, they could kick you off the ballot. So we're not going to worry about that because we're going to turn in so many that they can't keep us off.
Yeah. I don't know. I should have told you this before we went live. I think there is a button on your screen that will show comments. It should be on the right-hand side. There's like a little button or a chat or something. If you click on it, it'll open up.
I see it.
So if there's anyone that's asking questions, we can get to those. I just want to make sure, I forgot to tell you before, you should be able to see those. Can you see all of them?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Some are essays already.
Yep. So there's one that was actually, if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind just putting this up, except it's a long one from Dan, so it's kind of hard to read it on a mobile phone. I put it on the screen. January 6th, Capitol McConnell said, "We saw it happen. It was a violent insurrection for the purpose of trying to prevent the peaceful transfer of power after a legitimately certified election from one administration to the next." That's what it was. Do you agree?
That's just the same tired talking point we hear all the time because they're trying to get Derek Van Orden in Congress down in the 3rd district to say something about it. I mean, yes, criminals broke into the Capitol and criminals should be held accountable and criminals should be prosecuted and they should be brought to justice. Whether you're burning down a building in Kenosha or whether you're breaking a window in our Capitol or whether you rip the head off a statue outside of Madison in front of the Capitol where they beat a sitting senator. Like, none of that is allowable. None of that should be tolerated. No one is okay with that. And we shouldn't lump everyone that's protesting in with those who riot. And not every riot is a
civil
protest.
unrest. 50 educated me. It's not a riot. It's a civil unrest.
Yeah, so I don't understand. Like, I think there's a really concerted effort on the left to try to tie anyone that's Republican to, if you want to call it an insurrection. I mean, if that was an insurrection, it was pretty pitiful. I mean, we
as
saw
far as insurrections go, right.
But no, and no one endorses that. No one's okay with that.
Sure.
And we are bringing those people to justice. We've got cameras and footage, and they're catching them, and they're slowly bringing them forward on who broke the law. And that's the way it should be for everybody. So like I mentioned, whether you're breaking a window in the Capitol or breaking the window of a business downtown after you disagree with a court decision, I mean, you should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I don't think anyone disagrees with that.
When you were in the assembly, you worked a lot on broadband.
Yep.
You've been out of Madison for, I don't know, what has it been, a year and a half? How long?
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. Okay.
Yep. Time flies.
So I'm sure now that you have decided to run for Senate, you're kind of playing catch up a little bit, or finding out, okay, so what has over the last year and a half where I really wasn't in the loop on a lot of these things. So from what you have found out, has it been going in the right direction? Are we where we need to be? And is this still an important topic and or issue? Because I know it is for us, but I don't know. Is this still a talking point for people, for our legislators? Is this still a thing?
I think so. And we've talked on our show before in the past on how important connectivity is, right?
Yep.
It's important for healthcare. It's important for education, economic development, business retention, population growth, right? COVID has exacerbated the need for internet, and we've seen our vulnerabilities and we've seen the opportunities that come with having it or not having it. As a realtor in Northwest Wisconsin, I get that all the time.
Right.
Does this house have internet? If not, I don't want it, right? We've seen property values go through the roof, even in the northern part of the state that used to really have suppressed values, because people can now go to the cabin and work from home and live there full time. Why would I live in downtown Minneapolis in a condo when I can actually live at the cabin and drive in once a week, maybe, right? So the importance of this is huge. And we talked about this for a long time. And the nice part is it's pretty much universally agreed upon that internet and broadband expansion is important. So when I was in the assembly, I worked with Senator Markline. We tweaked the program that Governor Walker started, that he initially kicked it out of the gate on trying to work with local cooperatives, piggyback with them to get infrastructure in the ground, because we know running a mile of broadband to connect even 20 homes does not pay for itself. So I've always viewed broadband as infrastructure, not a luxury. So I think there is a role for government. And so we were trying to get the ball rolling before it was cool. Now everyone's like, oh yeah, broadband. Well, yeah, where were you 10 years ago or 8 years ago when we were actually trying? So I'm glad to see it. It's universally supported. The state's come a long way. We went from investing $500,000 a year in this grant program. We tweaked the program. We made sure it's only going to where we really need it. And then we've expanded it. When I left office, we were spending $4 to $6 million. The last budget I saw, they're going to spend $40 million over the biennium.
Wow.
So that's huge. So you're connecting tens of thousands of people, tens of thousands of potentially businesses that otherwise would not have had access. And so what I tell people, if you want to help, continue, if you have a choice, to choose your local cooperative. So whether you live in our area and you have Mosaic, I have Citizens Telecom out of New Auburn. Norvado is up in Bayfield in the northern part of the district. If at all possible, you have a choice between a CenturyLink and a cooperative, pick the cooperative, because the money they take in, even if it's a little more expensive, is going to be put back into the ground to connect more of your neighbors. And so I tell that to counties and businesses, sure, if CenturyLink's $50 a month, I don't want to pay $70. But when you pay that $70, the money stays in your community and it's burying lines to your other neighbors that don't have access.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yep.
You said, I wrote down universally supported. Are you referring to citizens? Or is this, I can't believe these words are coming out of my mouth, an actual, isn't a partisan issue? I mean, Republicans and Democrats? Because everything has to be a partisan, right? It just has to.
Right.
But this one, is it or isn't it?
Oh, don't worry. We had partisan fights over it. So now we all agree it's good. And now we're just going to fight about how to do it, how much, when to do it. So we'll still fight about it. Don't worry about that.
Okay. But, phew. I was like, oh man.
But we all support the idea that connectivity is more than a luxury. It's a necessity, especially in rural areas if we want to compete and maintain and continue to grow.
Fitzy and I have been talking lately, Barron County Sheriff Chris with Joe. We do our weekly Positive Tuesday shows. We've been talking about bail bonds a little bit, actually quite a bit over the last few months. When I do stories now, I will usually put in, if they have that information in the notes, we'll put in what these people have bonds on, and actually just what everybody does. So, and there's something interesting. One, it was just earlier this week, there was a $1,000 cash bond for someone, it was in your area, it was in Barron, for someone who had a whole bunch of videos or files of, gross child pornography stuff. We've talked about that a lot. I don't know, I'm sure you haven't seen that article. As a legislator, well, one, are you aware that, okay, maybe we need to really be looking at our bonds and our bails, but as a legislator, what can you do to get this, I wouldn't say corrected, but I'm just going to say it, to fix this, because we just can't have that.
It needs to be corrected. And that's a super important and relevant question, because we're seeing this play out right now in the Attorney General's race. I think even in the gubernatorial race. And you just said, Chris Fitzgerald, was on just Tuesday, and you talked about that case, and it's frustrating. So for law enforcement, for a community safety perspective, we need to change this. So the problem is right now, judges cannot take into account a person's past record, their repeat offender, or the severity of the crime, right? Because essentially bail is supposed to get you to come back to court, to show up again. It's not necessarily to keep you off the street because you might go out and do something again that's harmful. So we need to allow judges the ability to look more in depth at a person's past and current record, and the severity of the case, and the likelihood to reoffend, and the threat to the community. And so right now, they can't always do that. So in Milwaukee, we see this all the time, and they go, "Oh well, nothing we can do about it." So these people that are charged with felonies over and over and over again get back on the street. We saw that with the Waukesha massacre at the parade. The guy was, I think, out on some low bail, and then turned around and drove his SUV through a parade, killing elderly people, and you name it. Everyone had a Christmas parade. So we saw this again. There's outrage in Barron County where a guy had, hundreds of video clips of child pornography, which is, I don't know what's more disgusting than that. And he's back home right now because he paid $1,000 and he's not sitting in jail. Like, what is that about?
Yeah.
That's a joke. So what can we do about it? We have to change the law, and we actually have to change the Constitution. So the legislature already started this. So last session, they passed a constitutional change, and that process, it has to be passed twice. So it has to go through 2 sessions of the legislature, and then it goes to referendum, so the public gets to vote on that.
Oh.
And so that amendment would allow judges the ability to look more in depth at a person's past record when setting bail. So I think that's super important. But again, there are people, and politically on the left, that want criminal justice reform, which would mean not looking back as often on a person's past record. So this constitutional amendment change had almost zero bipartisan support. There were some that did, but not many, including Senator Bewley, who voted no. And so I think this is an important question, which I was going to ask her. She's not running. My competition now, who wants to run in her footsteps, her quote, I think that's an important question too, because as we're seeing the rise in violent crime, not as much in our area, but across the state, should judges have that ability to keep people off the streets? And I would say absolutely yes. And I cannot think of a reason why any politician would not allow that flexibility. So when we vote for that, we're not saying judges have to do anything particular. We're giving them more tools to be able to keep people off the streets if they feel that is necessary. So we're done hearing these excuses from judges saying, "Oh, I can't do anything about it." Well, baloney, because in about next 2 years, you're going to have the ability to do that, and then it's on you. And you are an elected official, and I hope the communities hold them accountable. So that's it's an important piece, and I hope that gets brought up along the campaign trail too. It needs to get done.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of things that, just as a regular citizen that I'm really that passionate about. I mean, broadband would be nice and all that stuff, but when it comes to this stuff, I'm like, I have a vested interest in this. I don't know why, I just do. Like anything against kids, first of all, that's just, I know. And I know that bails and bonds, this isn't their sentence. I get that. But I don't like seeing that stuff, man, and I don't know how anybody possibly could. We need our judges to have more flexibility, more tools in the proverbial toolbox, as you had said. I had Congressman Tom Tiffany on. He comes on. Our 7th Congressional District Representative comes on once a month. Right now, that's Tom Tiffany. He's in that position. And he brings up Enbridge pipeline. In the pipelines in the area. Well, the 25th, that would be, because he's referencing Northwest Wisconsin, and that would be the 25th Senate District, I believe, as well, but maybe not. Enbridge pipeline is that so that okay, so that's in your area. I thought one of the recently he had said, I think it was just last week when he was on, something about the rerouting of it. Is that accurate? I can't remember. I wanted to go back and listen to it this morning. I just didn't get time.
Yes. So the pipeline currently runs from Superior and runs across to the UP. Mm-hmm. And so it crosses over Douglas, Ashland, Bayfield, and Iron counties. And currently the pipeline goes through the tribe, the reservation up in Ashland County right now.
Okay.
And so the lease was up, and the tribe sued or just said, no, we're not renewing it. We don't want a pipeline across our land. Fine. That's their right. They're a sovereign nation, and they don't want that pipeline, and they don't want to renew that lease. So Enbridge is saying, fine, we'll go around you. So now they're going to spend $450 million to go around the reservation, connect back up, and go the rest of the way to the UP.
Okay.
And right now there are a lot of people, again, that oppose it, because if you are, I understand where they're coming from, right? If we want to move towards renewables, just putting in a pipeline, slow that progress. Well, what we've seen and what we know is that, yes, even while we transition to renewables, the lights still have to turn on, the heat still has to turn on. I still need propane in my tank that's sitting out behind my house, and people still need natural gas in town. And we've seen prices double, sometimes triple. I know natural gas is up 40%, I think, in the city of Rice Lake. I know propane through our cooperative is up more than 50% from the summer when I purchased propane. And that's all, or or a reaction of our own domestic policy, right? And so part of this is we need to support this kind of infrastructure to make sure we have steady, reliable, and affordable energy, even while we transition to renewables. So I'm not opposed to solar or wind or other forms of renewable energy by any means, but we can't have this imaginary fairy tale that we can just shut our pipelines off and that we'll be fine tomorrow. We don't have the capacity to provide the resources everyone needs and knows. So I think like 30 to 40% of northern Wisconsinites use propane. That pipeline is a big deal. That natural gas and propane byproducts that go to the UP, it's also important for Michigan. So right now we've got the governor of Michigan who's trying to kill the project on her side. And then we've had northern Wisconsin Representative Milroy, Myers, Senator Bewley, who have either absolutely been silent or don't inherently support, but don't want to say it, the rerouting of this pipeline. So I'm not quiet about it. I support the reroute. I think it's important for us long-term for national security reasons. Even we've seen this with the Ukrainian conflict of how important it is that we are energy independent. And that starts right here in our own backyard. And so the DNR needs to get off their butts, need to approve the permits, and they need to get this pipeline built and done. 700 union construction jobs while it's being built, $450 million of infrastructure investment, and it's the safest way to transport. If you don't want the pipeline, fine. Get ready to see dozens, if not hundreds of more trucks on the highway transporting it then, right?
Right.
We're going to clog up our railways more. So it makes it even harder for farmers and loggers to get their products.
Sure.
Because oil companies can pay more to get their products shipped and not using the cars for logging or other reasons, right? So I think it needs to be done. It doesn't have to be one or the other, right? If you support the pipeline, you hate renewables. If you only like renewables, you can't support the pipeline. I don't think that's the case at all.
So maybe you mentioned this there. I don't think so, but you had said about permits and the DNR has to get this done. Yeah, obviously you're running for an office. Who makes the decision here? Because you also referenced that the governor over in Michigan is trying to kill it on that end. But who's the deciding factor here? Is it just a DNR? Is it the legislator? How does this get done or not get done? Who makes that decision?
It's the administration. So the DNR is an arm of Governor Evers now. They're part of the administration. And right now the permits are on their desk, and they will determine if or not that passes. And right now they're dragging their feet. I'm sure there's going to be more lawsuits, so on and so forth. But the longer we have a pipeline in the ground from 1953, the more likely we could have oil spills, right? I mean, we're going to have the latest technology built by the most qualified union workers to put the newest pipeline we can in the ground. That's 10 times better than having a pipeline in the ground from 1953.
Yeah.
So the sooner we can get it, the better it is for everybody, right? But yes, it's an arm of the DNR. It's with the DNR, but the legislature appropriates funds to the administration and the DNR, and it should be on us to weigh in on these issues, right? Now, I can't control if the wolf's delisted or not, but I'm sure as heck not going to be quiet about it, because as the next state senator for the 25th, I'm going to make sure that Congress and everyone knows that in our area, we want the wolf to remain delisted and managed by the state. No different than the pipeline. It's not up to me. I don't get to sign it, but I'm not going to be quiet about it.
Sure,
and I think it's upon us as representatives to be vocal about that and the issues that impact residents in our district.
Well, that's something I've always appreciated about you. You're going to have a view and an opinion, and you're transparent about it. No kidding. It's like fits you too. I'm going to tell you what I think and why I think it. You can agree with me, you can disagree with me, but I'm not going to just avoid it or not talk about it. Or you had said maybe some other of our representatives are just quiet about it. I don't understand that. I really don't. I mean, that's literally, not literally. I believe that's part of your job.
Right,
when you are an elected official, whether that's a sheriff or assembly, Senate, I think that's part of your job. You're supposed to advocate for things or against things, but you should be telling everyone exactly where you stand and what you think and feel about every topic.
Sure.
It's just how I think.
And some people are going to say, well, are you not representing the people in your district that don't want the pipeline? Right? So there's always that push and pull. So, for instance, today there is a speaker. I don't know if he's from the Bad River tribe. I recognize his name from when I was in office. Mm-hmm. He's giving a speech on campus at UW-Barron County today, this afternoon, on why the Enbridge 5 pipeline, the reroute, is bad. So I'm going to go to that and I'm going to listen and I'm going to probably learn something that I wouldn't have known. And I'm going to take in that information and have that discussion and have that debate. And that's what we should be doing, right?
I
We
think
should
so.
be hearing both sides and come to our opinion. Now, do I already have an opinion? Yeah, I was pretty clear about that.
Mhm.
But I'm going today to see if I can learn something that I don't know. And maybe that would change my mind. So just being open and having those conversations are important.
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier I was kind of snooping on or creeping on your Facebook page this morning. I
You're a
wanted to put
creeper.
this up. I know. Yeah, exactly. Explain this photo.
Yeah, no, that's super exciting. So the young kid in there is my nephew,
Aw.
Xavier, and he's pretty much never gone hunting. He comes out to my house and we shoot BB guns and stuff. But my brother on the left and two of his friends took him out turkey hunting. So it's the youth season. We allow our youth to go out there first and bag the biggest toms they can. And so he got to go hunting for the first time and shot a bird on his second day. And I cannot tell you how important and life-changing that is to him. It
Really?
is so important that we get our youth out in the woods to get them addicted to hunting, to conservation. Remember, our hunters, our men and women that hunt, are the biggest conservationists out there. They're the ones that fund the programs that preserve our environment and our resources for tomorrow and the next generation. So super happy about that. I was the former vice chair of natural resources and sporting heritage in the assembly. And I've always been a proponent of trying to promote ways to get our kids outdoors because I know how much you love the outdoors, Ben. And so
Yeah.
we need to make sure more and more people
Picking up your
enjoy
sarcasm.
that.
Yeah. And guns. Yep. No, thank you. I mean, great.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not the Second Amendment guns. Cool. Fine. I don't care. I just like
Yeah.
guns on video games, like not actual real guns. I get nervous around them. I don't like them.
Sure.
Nope. But I know they're great, wonderful, awesome, fine. But so then you throw in guns and the outdoors? No, thank you.
Wait,
Come on.
I have to
That's
get up
stupid.
at 4 a.m. and
Yeah.
go sit for hours in the cold
I don't
and try to
understand
shoot a
it.
turkey
They got
that I may or may
turkey
not
at the
see.
Economart right down the road. I can just go get it there. It's not that tough.
Well, we do need people like you too that don't hunt because if everyone hunted, there'd be no room. So
Nothing. How old were you? So you had said that was a big thing, right? Because it was his first one. How
Yep.
old were you? I'm assuming you turkey hunt, right? You're a Republican. Of course you hunt.
no, I hunt. I've never gone legitimately turkey hunting.
Oh,
So it's on my thing to do. I usually don't have time. That's the problem. Just like I would love to bow hunt for deer, but I don't have time. So I enjoy rifle season. That's a tradition, I think, for many, many Wisconsinites dating back generations. And I participate in that. But I do not have the time, unfortunately, usually to participate in many of the other hunts that Wisconsin offers us here in the Northwoods.
So I don't know if this was a response to another email, and maybe she was responding to somebody else. But I just have a so both parties are corrupt. Would you agree with that? That both parties are corrupt?
I think there are bad actors on both sides, 100%. I think there are people in office for the wrong reason. I think there are people that make choices in office for the wrong reason, and I think that exists on both sides, 100%. Now, like what percentage is corrupt or how bad is it? I
Right.
mean, we can have debates and talks about that, but I don't doubt that. And that's the thing is we're all human, and I try to remind people too. I mean, I'm a flawed person. I'm a flawed candidate. People aren't going to agree with me 100% of the time, and we're electing other humans to make these decisions, and we know that we're naturally flawed. So I don't think anyone is immune from it. I think we just try to elect people that try to do the best they can, and we try to hold them accountable the best we can. That's our job as voters.
Yeah. So yesterday I had CEO of Ignite Dispensary, Timothy Fry, on, and we're already up against our time here. Yeah, but I'd be remiss not to bring this up because I said I was going to bring it up, but now I can't remember what I was supposed to bring up because
And
we
I
were
still
talking.
didn't get to go back and watch that. I caught the first part, and it
Oh.
seemed super interesting. I know we chatted, but I didn't get to watch it yet. I'll
Yep.
have to go back and do
So and I was supposed to. So it wasn't really about marijuana, that part of it, but I'm just going to bring that up right now. Just because this is, I think, the first time that you've been on since you have announced. I think so. Or maybe you were on with Fitzy and I once. I can't remember. But where are you on legalization of medicinal marijuana and for recreational use? Where do you stand?
So there's a lot packed into that, right? So when I was in office, I was the first Republican to sign on to a Democrat bill to legalize the production and manufacturing of hemp again in Wisconsin. Now, hemp is not weed or marijuana, and a lot of people thought it was. So we had a lot of education.
I did, like, no kidding, like
Fast
yesterday.
forward to now, we have the same thing. We have a lot of education to do regarding CBD, the different products that are out there that is not marijuana, right? So when it comes to medicinal marijuana, I have always been a supporter of that. I've always been a supporter of right to try. When I was in office, we voted for right to try. If you have a chronic illness, a terminal illness, and there are potentially drugs or medications out there that could help alleviate the symptoms or better your life for what time you have left, and maybe it's not approved yet by the FDA all the way through the process, I think you have a right to try it. It's up to you. We don't know if it works or not, but it's up to you to try. And so I was supportive of that legislation. So now, on that same vein, of course I support medicinal marijuana. I have colleagues that I know even in the assembly that are cancer survivors, and they've been honest. They said, Romaine, it's the only way I could get off these super strong opiates, and it's the only reason I didn't become an addict, because I was able to tame some form of marijuana that allowed me to try to lessen my symptoms when I thought I was going to die. So I personally, when it comes to recreational, I really don't care what you do as long as you go to work, pay your taxes, don't neglect your kids, right? Because I'm not paying for your habit. I'm not paying to take care of your kids. And I'm not paying for anything else that you should be doing because you're not doing now because you are maybe addicted to some kind of a substance. And so it's hard. I think there needs to be a greater conversation on it. Obviously, the country is shifting that way. I think it's very hard. Those of us on the right that just want to say, no, absolutely nothing, no CBD, no medical marijuana, no recreational marijuana, no nothing.
It's a lot easier.
I don't think that's correct.
Right.
And I think those on the other side can't just totally ignore some of the effects of complete legalization, right? I mean, whenever you make something more prevalent, more people are going to use it. Is it good that more people use it than not? I mean, we can have these debates. So I think there is that middle area that conversation needs to be had. Now, like, I know law enforcement hates the idea, right? Your dad hates the idea.
Yep.
But a lot are for medicinal. Because can we just pass medicinal so we can stop talking about weed and marijuana?
Yeah, because let's face it, they're not both going to get done at the same time. If one gets done, it's gonna have to start there. So I almost kind of feel like the topics of the recreational, it's a kind of a moot point right now. I mean, it's important to find out where people stand on things. You're running for something, so of course we should find out. But really, the conversation really let's focus on that part first, because if that doesn't happen, it's not like they're going to legalize recreational use and not medicinal. Like, they'll do medicinal later. I don't think that's how it's going to go. So let's just focus on that one for now.
Yeah. Well, and there's a libertarian argument to be made, and a lot that want recreational marijuana make the same argument of, I, as an adult, as a private citizen, should be able to do what I want in the confines of my own home without government interference if it doesn't affect anybody else, right? And so there's some that are saying, I know, like on the extreme libertarian side, we should deregulate all drugs. Doesn't matter if it's methamphetamine, doesn't matter if it's marijuana, doesn't matter if it's cocaine, doesn't matter, whatever it is, right? That you, as a private, adult, free person, should have the right to do whatever you want. But we know there are legitimate consequences that come with that. There is never a circumstance where meth is a positive thing, right? Yeah. So we have to reconcile that idea of, what do I have the freedom to do as an adult versus what is the outcome for society? And these are the issues that we're always going to grapple with, right? The tug and pull. Why do we have a limit on the number of liquor licenses in towns? Why can't anyone open up a bar?
Why is that?
Because there is the idea that the more places you can buy and consume alcohol, the more consumption, and then the more problems we have with that consumption, right? So we limit. We used to limit on when they could be open. Why can't bars be open till 4 a.m? Why 2? Why can't we have one on every corner or every liquor store? So I'm not saying alcohol is the same as marijuana. Marijuana is not the same as meth. So I'm going to get yelled at for making that correlation. But I think we need to be more open about having these conversations on how they'll impact society, how they won't, and then what right do you as an individual have in the confines of your own home to do what you want as a free adult.
We have time for one more question here. Where do you stand on the results of the 2020 presidential election?
Boy, were they disappointing. I am not a fan. I'm not a supporter of President Joe Biden. Now, obviously, I support the office. I want him to be successful because I know what happens when he's not successful, like right now, and we're all paying for it. Do I think there were issues with the election? Absolutely. I think it's undeniable. I don't think you have to be a Democrat or a Republican to say private entities should be giving money to help run elections in communities, or private people, part of partisan organizations, should be handed the keys to have access to ballots or information. I don't. There are a whole host of issues that happened in Wisconsin that we have to remedy and correct that should be bipartisan. And we know that Governor Evers supports none of them. And so we need to find a way to either go around him or get rid of him. And the voters will have that choice this November.
Hey, real estate. You still going to do that? Right? Because you're doing real estate right now.
Yep.
You're
So
also running a campaign. How's that working?
Right. I still have to work. So a lot of people, you can't do that anymore. No, I still have to eat until November.
Yeah.
But I had my license even when I was in office before.
Oh, okay.
I know we'll get criticized because you're doing both or more than one thing. There's always something out there, right? So you get criticized if you don't own a business because now you're just a career politician. And then when you do, you're not dedicated because you're doing more than one thing. So yeah, still have my license. I love it. It's very enjoyable. It's a great market right now for our sellers, and I'll continue to do that.
Awesome. All right. Anything else you wanted to talk about? I mean, we have a long race. As last I heard, there's you don't have a primary opponent as of right now.
No primary.
So we have quite a ways. I mean, it's quite a ways away until November. So of course, you're always welcome to come back on, and we can have more in-depth conversations about things. But is there anything else that you wanted to make sure that you talked about that we didn't get a chance to?
No, I just want to let people know. I mean, there's a long time from now to November. There's going to be a lot of issues. There's going to be a lot of money spent that distorts the records of everyone running, right? Not just me. And so I would encourage people to reach out and contact us if you have questions. There's going to be a lot that's said, some true, some not, and we're not always going to agree. But I encourage people to reach out. And thank you for doing the show. I'm assuming you'll have Kelly Westland on as well. I think it's good for people to be able to hear directly from the candidate, answer questions directly, not just an email response. They can see your mannerisms, if they're squirming or if I don't really want to answer that. I think this platform in Medium is very important.
Wow.
And that's why I think we know through your numbers, the most successful independent news network, our outlet in Wisconsin.
It's ridiculous. I have no business running this business. At all.
You're doing a great job.
I have no idea why.
Whatever you're doing, you're doing great.
Yeah, and I just following up on that, I did email because we usually don't ask guests on, but we do make them aware that if they want to, they can. So I did email when they sent the press release for your opponent. So we published that. I did respond to that and just say, you know what, if Kelly wants to come on at any point, here's my number. Give me a call. Haven't heard from her yet, but again, it's going to be a long race here. So, but yeah, she's more than welcome to come on anytime. All right. So what do you have coming up this weekend? You're getting papers or signing and blah, blah, blah. What else is going on? What do you have going on this week?
Yeah. So we are busy all the time. Things are really picking up. Like I said, today there's a meeting about the Enbridge pipeline at Barron County. Tonight there's the Barron County Economic Development Banquet, where we recognize some outstanding businesses here in Barron County. That's important.
I know. Dave invited me to that, Dave Armstrong, and I said, did I get an award? Because if not, I'm not going. So I'm not going. I guess I didn't. Isn't
it? No. Friday, I get to go meet a great group of people up in Danbury. They are excited about our candidacy. They want papers. They already want signs. I'm like, hold up. It's only April.
Right.
We're not doing the sign thing yet.
Right.
But we'll get them to you. So I'll be up there. And then the weekend is busy with events too. It's starting to really ramp up, which is fun because it's good to be on the campaign trail again.
Do you miss it now that you're getting back in and doing this stuff? Is it something that you missed, or is it?
Ask me in August when we've done our 13th parade. Okay.
I'll ask you in August.
I missed it.
All right, cool. Oh, I have a question. So we have some guests. Hold on, I wrote this down. So I've now that it's election cycle, we're doing a lot more shows, right? So our Tuesdays is with Fitzy, and then Thursday and Friday shows. This week we did a Wednesday instead of Friday because Tim it was 420. So yeah, I think like next week we have Will Martin, who's like my new favorite person. I think he's running for lieutenant governor. I love that dude.
Will's a great guy.
Kevin Nicholson running for governor. I think he's a Republican. Rebecca Clayfish, she'll be on. Koo Lee. Koulee, first and last name, Koo Lee. I believe he's a Democrat running for U.S. Senate.
Sure.
But I have a question. Brian Westrate.
Yes.
I've seen him on Facebook, so I know he's running for something. And he messaged and asked, because again, people ask, come on, candidates? We say yes. So I have it scheduled. I think it's next Friday.
Yeah.
Dude,
So
I don't
Brian
know
is-
anything about... I hate to admit it, so I wanted to ask you, is he Republican? Is he Democrat? And no kidding, what is he running for?
Yeah,
Because he's not from
Brian's
here.
Brian's a Republican. He's a good guy. He has been involved in party politics in the Chippewa County-ish area for many, many years.
Oh.
And he's running for that state Senate seat just south of us.
Oh, so the same thing. Okay.
So the same thing I'm running for, and he will have a primary. So Jesse James is also running. He is in the assembly. He's a friend of mine as well. So hopefully those two don't get bitter because I like them both. And so I hope it's a clean primary where both sides can just present their qualifications and voters get to decide, and the best man or woman wins.
Nope, that's no
but
fun.
that usually doesn't happen.
No.
So, no, that district is lucky to have multiple qualified candidates to run for that seat.
Yeah. I'm sorry, we have one more question here because I forgot to bring this up. I told Dale Knapp, he was on a couple weeks ago, and it was about the reserves. And you know what? It's hard for me to really kind of ask this if you didn't see the article, but it was talking about the reserves, like the rainy day fund. We have a whole bunch of money, but I'm sorry, did you happen to see that article? It was like from 2 weeks ago.
Yes, and I caught part of the show, and and he's right, we are in a super unique point in state finance history to have the kind of cash and surpluses on hand. So that's why it's so much more important to have people in office that are willing to look forward, right? So I think this could, and obviously we don't want to spend it all, but I think there's a great opportunity to look at tax reform, how we operate. Having that cushion will allow us to make some changes so there's no cuts on how we collect funds possibly. I mean, there's ideas out there to get rid of the property tax, or could we go to more of a sales tax and get rid of income tax altogether? There's lots of ideas out there, but I think this could be a cool opportunity to try and lock in some kind of level of debt, so we have debt, but lock in a ceiling so we can never go above a certain amount of debt and begin to make down payments on what's outstanding. So I don't think we have to, debt is a natural thing that has to exist forever. Washburn County is a great example. For a while, until they had to do some upgrades, Washburn County was debt-free. Why can't Wisconsin be debt-free? We carry a lot of debt in our program revenues. For instance, if people want the DNR to have more money for programs or to protect the environment or enforcement, you name it, right? If we got rid of program debt, we don't have to spend any more money on the DNR. They would have that money within their department to continue to do those things if we could get ahead of it, right? Why can't we pay some of that stuff off?
It's like paying on interest on credit cards. I feel like I'm not actually
100%.
paying it down here.
The stewardship fund. Everyone likes public lands. Everyone supports the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund, but you can't continue to operate it on a credit card. Think of how much money or how much land or how many areas of wetlands we could fix if the DNR wasn't spending millions of dollars each month just on interest payments.
And now, hold on. When you say the DNR is spending millions and millions of whatever it is a month, who funds DNR?
Budget. What's that?
Okay,
I take that back. The legislature has authorized the DNR to buy land on a credit card, and we use funding within the DNR to pay that off. And so every month we're spending millions of dollars in interest for land that we bought that we never paid for.
So taxpayers ultimately are the ones paying for this bill. That
100%. Yep. So we can do
so
better.
We're paying on the interest. That doesn't make sense. I'm sorry.
I know. So that we can do better. And that way, the money we have, whether it's in the rainy day fund, I don't think we should touch that at all, or just the general surplus we have in the checkbook, which is the general fund, which I think he explained. We have a unique opportunity to really do better.
Yeah.
We can do better.
And I agree with Sarah. You're totally killing DNR today.
No, I'm not. In their defense, they are supposed to execute the policies that the legislature puts forward. Now, not in their defense, there are quite a few in there that are ideologues who try to thwart the legislature's intent at every turn. And it is frustrating, and I have seen it, and it happens much more under this administration. And so I can tell you that once I'm back in office, they will not be doing that at my committee meetings anymore. So I think there needs to be a good balance there.
Nice to see you again, Romaine.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Anytime. Thanks, bud. Special thank you to my guest today, former Assembly Representative and current candidate for Wisconsin's 25th state Senate seat, Romaine Quinn. For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden saying thank you for watching and have a blessed day. That's a legit turkey. Is that a big turkey, by the way?
It's a nice town.
Is it? Like, I don't know.
It is.
It looks big. And why do they always hold up their feathers like that?
Because look how cool that is, Ben. You and I need to go turkey hunting together.
Yeah, okay.